And welcome to the September 25th meeting of the Monomoy Regional School Committee. And we begin right now at 6:29, a little bit early. First order of business is approval of the minutes, and that is the first one is a September 4 workshop. Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Jackie,
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, those are approved. Second is the September 11th school committee meeting for the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the September 11th, 2025 meeting minutes as presented in the packet.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? And any abstentions?
Abstain.
One abstention. Okay. It is approved. All right. We are supposed to have here right now our high school student representative, Maggie Powers. Is Maggie here? She's not here. Okay, so we'll move on to public comment. Not seeing anybody, we will continue to reports and discussions. The first is the school committee goals, which we talked about a couple weeks ago. And this is the second reading. And we are going to vote on this tonight, if we're prepared. Do we have a motion to approve? Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, all right. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, those are our goals for 2025, 2026. We now go to the first reading of policy of the fingerprint policy. Who's the chair? Brian.
Yes.
Okay.
So the subcommittee went over this policy. This policy technically had its first reading last year, but needed revisions based on recommendations from the union. The red line language was language that was proposed by the union. We went over it, we didn't have any issues with it, and we're bringing it to the full committee for a first reading.
Okay. Any questions? No? Okay, so that will proceed to second reading for the next school committee meeting. Thank you very much. Now let's go to, we've updated subcommittee assignments. This is going to be, and I understand that Ryan Clark had to make some changes on here due to some commitments. So any questions on this at all? Is this correct in everybody's view? Great.
District Wellness Committee,
The Wellness Committee, yes.
can you tell me what that
I'm sorry?
consists of? Can you explain that to me?
I can, yeah.
Okay.
I was on it last year, and it's really, I think, it was really kind of neat. Melissa runs the meetings. It is to update, particularly with a real focus, I think last year on nutrition and eating in terms of cafeteria. And there's a group of parents and a group of students that do it via Zoom and meet essentially once a month to update the policies on there and try to improve, particularly in nutrition and eating and those kind of things. So I thought really made great strides last year. I thought it was very, very good. I thought it was very worthwhile. And that we got accomplished last year, particularly in a team with parents and students involved, which was, very different than any of the other subcommittees. I don't recall it starting until maybe later on in the year, though, so maybe that's why it just had to start in September. Any other questions on subcommittees? Okay, well, those are the subcommittees. So, the subcommittee, speaking of subcommittees, the subcommittee for the superintendent search got together and reviewed 3 different options. Meredith had gone out and I know Betty had started last year, and Meredith had gone out and got 3 options. One was MASC, the other was the Cape Cod Collaborative, and the other is NESDEC. And we went through all of them and found that cost-wise, they were pretty much about the same. In terms of process, we felt that MASC was the best one. It just seemed as though they were going to really be going through with us the process from beginning to end, and we just really felt, and it would happen to be a couple $1,000s less than the NESDEC one, but that wasn't the reason why we chose it. It just seemed to be the one that would really take us into the process from the beginning to the end, and so the subcommittee recommended that we go ahead with MASC. Any questions that we can ask? Yes, Steve?
What kind of team do they have working with us as we go forward? I mean, what kind of dedicated people do we have working for us?
Yeah, Scott, do you want to talk about that? Because I know you've had a lot of experience with that before.
Sure. They will have a person who's sort of dedicated for this area of the state to run any sort of processes, but they also have at their offices sort of the team behind to go help with the application screening. So, so the experience is generally that there's a point person from MASC that we'd be using, but they do have a number of people behind them to support that process. And then Glenn Kuchar, who's the head of MASC, is often very involved in this as well, but he's typically not the point person.
Yeah.
Glenn tries, I think because he's so well known to all the superintendents out there, Glenn tends to be here for the process, but there's one of the regional reps that's actually running it.
And from a timetable, we'd really get started. Our intention is, if it's approved tonight, that we would be meeting the subcommittee be meeting with them next week. I think it's next Thursday night. And then we'd begin the process and really start getting it going by November. It would take several months to go through it, make a decision, but we'd have plenty of time then if we started then. If we find the right person and hit all the right benchmarks, they would have plenty of time to be able to make a good decision and be prepared to make the transition next spring.
I just have a question, Brad. Do we have the same information about the other 3 that you looked at, or the other 2?
We do. I have NESDEC here. We didn't put it into the packet, and the Cape Cod Collaborative I know that we got last year, so I don't have that, to disseminate here. That's why we just included this one in here.
I mean, I had read through this previously on what they kind of lay out, but what's difficult about it is it doesn't compare it to what the others do.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't stand out to me in any way because I don't know
Sure.
what the others do, and I know that you guys probably have vetted in your, whatever your process was for the 3, but it would have been helpful to have like a slide deck or something with just, this is the expense, this is what you get for facilitation, this is what you get for support, X amount of people, whatever it is, and like what their projected timeline, like what's their proposal for us.
Sure. Sure.
That probably would have been helpful. I do know that we're on a tight timeline, so I don't know that that's feasible.
Scott, you want to talk?
Sure. Meredith spoke after we met or after the subcommittee met, I know that Meredith spoke to MASC. They can meet the timeline that we set out. I would say NAS or NE NASDAQ. NASDAQ had a very similar proposal. It's just theirs was, a little more expensive, a couple $1,000s more expensive. The collaborative was more of this is the range that it would cost, but their low end was higher than MASC's. And I think the conversation at the table was MASC it's the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, and they have a vested interest in supporting school committees with superintendent searches, so that's why they offer this. And they I would say in recent years have been the major organization running superintendent searches. I know when I was hired years ago, I believe it was NASDAQ that did that search. And there are some school committees that have gone that route. Cape Cod Collaborative, theirs was sort of more expensive in terms of that range, but it's also not their jam. And I think this is something that MASC really does and focuses on for school committees.
Yeah, I just speak of the Cape Cod Collaborative because I'm the liaison with the Cape Cod Collaborative, and having been on it now since last January, very capable people. The new executive director is terrific, but it's really kind of a stretch from really what the main mission is, as I, been there now just a few months. So it just seemed like with MASC that was certainly would be a better experience than with the collaborative.
So can I ask a follow-up question? With the NASDAQ and the MASC, what were the major differences between those two, other than the price?
Yeah,
I think it doesn't seem like the price was that big.
Yeah, I think the key thing, just looking through it, and again, we don't have that, so you can't do it, and certainly, but I just think just in terms of the tightness of the proposal, it just seemed to really, I think we just all felt, and it was unanimous, that we just felt that this was going to be, and based on the experience too that Dr. Carpenter had, that this was somebody that we really had more confidence in. They were going to be able to bring us through the whole process, and in a very timely manner. And again, it was less expensive, but a couple $1,000s was not going to make that much of a difference.
And I think their communication with Meredith was a really good conversation as opposed to the other, where she had more confidence based on speaking with them versus the other.
And
And Meredith was the only one who spoke with them.
Right.
Yeah,
directly.
and NASDAQ is who we used last time?
Yeah.
Yeah. I will concur with you about the collaborative.
Seems a little.
And I know that in the past, they've always relied on retired collaborative senior people, and, these folks are a little bit more, they're dedicated to that job and are more focused.
That was my feeling on, again, collaborative, fantastic group,
Right.
and doing great work, but not as seeming to be as appropriate to the task than this group here.
I was going to just point out, I think one thing that NASDAQ, or sorry, that MASC brings to it is because they're involved and have been historically involved in recent years with so many of the superintendent searches in Massachusetts, they really have a feel for the timeline, and I think the conversation at the table is to bring them in. It's like, here's the timeline that the subcommittee's thinking of. Now bounce that off MASC in terms of where they think the timeline should be, because I sent to Brad and Meredith, I believe yesterday, the first Massachusetts school posted for its superintendent search. So again, to know what that timeline looks like and where we sit, if we want to be going out, on the front end and not have, not be lapped by everybody else
Did you start that by saying NASDAQ or mask?
MASC.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you, because I was like, whoa, now we're going a different direction.
It's been a long week.
No, it's okay, I just wanted to clarify.
So are there any other questions, or any other discussion? Steve?
I move that we accept MASC's proposal for consulting us in the superintendent's search.
Okay, do we have a second? Any seconds? Any further discussion?
Just one clarifying question, is this our proposal?
That is a proposal. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, it is approved. So what we're going to do, the next step now is the subcommittee will be meeting next Thursday night with MASC, and then we'll start putting together the nuts and bolts of this and the timetable, and we'll keep everybody abreast as we certainly go forward with all of this. And part of it is to get a pretty large group, too, that's going to be, stakeholders. It's not just going to be the subcommittee, it's not just going to be the school committee, but ultimately it'll be our vote, but so that the people will, as we get the candidates, will really be vetted. So, okay, prior year encumbrances. Michael.
Good evening, school committee. Michael McMillan, school business manager. Two items. The first is approval of a prior year expenditure. So this is, we've had a few of these now. There's a memo in your pack. It's $200 worth of nursing supplies that we did not encumber before the end of the year.
Okay, any questions? Jackie?
Motion to approve the payment of $200 in FY25 invoices not previously encumbered as presented to the school committee.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Thank you, Michael. You can stay up there for our favorite subject. Seems like we just finished it, and we're ready to start it again. Here we go.
Disagree. We are a little ahead of ourselves this year. We're a little earlier than we've been in previous years for reasons I'll go into. So this is the budget calendar. So I've tried to be, this year, taking a slightly different approach and tried to be as comprehensive as possible to include all the different dates and meetings that we'll be having, not all of them, but a lot of them, so we can be sort of more prepared in advance. We're following broadly the same approach that we've done the last couple of years. So we will have, a couple of presentations to school committee. We'll also have the budget workshop, and then in early January we'll have a vote of the first draft of the budget, which we will share with the towns, and then we'll move forward to the final draft of the budget around March time, and then that's what will go forward to the town meetings, hopefully. And in that time we'll also plan to meet with the towns. And there's kind of another number of milestones along the way, including, did I say we'd have the budget workshop? So that's scheduled for November, so that was part of your annual calendar. And that's an opportunity for the principals and some of the directors to come and present their budgets to you in a bit more detail and give you some of the flavour and sense of what they're hoping to achieve. So that's all to come in the months ahead. One thing that's a little different this year is I've moved the capital plan approval up. So in previous years, that's been kind of the main items we've done have been kind of this timeline and background, then a sort of 5-year look ahead of what was coming down the pike, and then the capital plan. This year I've swapped it, so we're doing the capital plan first, which is maybe not quite as intuitive, but the reason for that is that the town of Harwich have written to us and requested that we send them our capital plan by October 15th. So that's a little sooner in the process than we're used to. However, we did have a meeting with the Harwich Capital Planning Committee. They wanted to see this Harwich Elementary School. So they came and met with us there, and we gave them a tour of the building. And one of the things I did say at that meeting was, if you want information from us, just give us a little heads up, give us some notice, because often what would happen in the past is we would get a call on a Tuesday saying, hey, we're having a meeting on Thursday, can you provide us your capital plan? And so instead, I said, look, if you can give us a bit more notice, we're more than happy to share all the information you need. Just give us some information. Give us a heads up. So they did. So careful what you ask for. So they said, okay, here's your information. We want it on October 15th. So, I mean, we've done a lot of work on this in the last couple of years, so it's not a huge, heavy lift. But we have going to want to get that done, get that approved by you, so we can go to the town by the 15th. And then, one other thing I did include here that I've not included in the past is the proposed PEG funds request. So that is, both towns receive money from cable companies, so from Verizon really, that's supposed to go towards public education and broadcasting. And we've never really had a formal process for how, because we use those funds to help fund our TV studio operations, but there's never really been a formal process for how that's included with the budget, and it's sometimes a bit of an afterthought, and the towns, and probably for sure on us that we just need to make it. So I wanted to make it in a formal part of the budget process, so we'll come to you with the proposal. It's not generally a ton of money, so but not insignificant either. So I'll come and present to you what we're requesting, and then be able to send that to the towns in plenty of time. And also with the town of Harwich's turnover that they've had, the earlier we can be sending them stuff, the better, because they're just not able to necessarily respond quickly, because often it's a new person dealing with it. So the more notice we give them, the better. And then I just wanted to highlight, so I'll complain about this for the next few months, but we won't know the state funding numbers or the health insurance numbers until late January, and that will just blow everything up. So we'll make estimates about what we're expecting everything to be, but I'll keep saying until you're bored of it, it comes with a caveat that I don't know what the health insurance is yet, and we don't know what the Chapter 70 number is, which is what the money we're getting from the state. And within the Chapter 70 number, one of the biggest numbers is the minimum local contribution, because that really impacts the assessment. I mean, go into all more detail on that down the road, but we don't really know what it's looking like until late January. So, you get a lot of information, but that's when the rubber really hits the road. And then we've got, I did speak to the town of Chatham, just say, look, this is what we're thinking around coming in around February 16th to March 6th to start to come and talk to your committees, just to kind of start to make sure they're aware of those dates. So here's the school, so then kind of pulling out of that, detailed table, here's the sort of school committee meetings that I have proposed. We're right here now. We'll then look to schedule a meeting of the finance subcommittee in order to review the capital plan. So that's going to come kind of quick. So I'll be in touch to try and arrange that. And then approve the capital plan. Then, as I mentioned, PEG funds. We'll do a 5-year forecast, budget workshop in November. And then you'll have the first, really, December 11th is where you really start to we all start to see where the budget's coming out. So that's when you start to get a feel for where we're going to be and where the problems are, where the pinch points are. And then I've also suggested we schedule another finance subcommittee just early January in order to approve the budget before it goes to the budget draft, before it goes to the full committee. I've asked our treasurer, who may be a new treasurer by then, to give us a kind of outlook on our investment. We'll have our investments, we have the public hearing scheduled for February 12th, and then another finance subcommittee March 5th to approve the final budget. So I guess I had a couple of questions about this. Do you think this is enough meetings of the finance subcommittee? I mean, we can also make this up as we go along. So after we've had the first meeting of the finance subcommittee, we can schedule more meetings. But is this an okay place to be starting?
Question, Michael, and that is, last year we had the budget workshop, which I thought was fantastic. Yes. And as I recall, it was in August. Now the calendar is calling it for November, so that's several months later. Why did that change from dramatic change?
I think it was November last year.
Yeah.
Was it November?
Yeah.
I think the August ones with the town, usually.
I wonder what it was.
The August was just us.
No, I remember you're talking about with all the principals?
Yes.
Yeah, that was just a workshop, the school committee workshop for August. We do
that
that.
was August last year.
Oh, maybe it was a warm day?
So
And the reason, I mean, I
we
guess.
had all the principals last year in August to go through the numbers, as I recall. But anyways,
You were shedding summer work.
got it.
Summer work,
All
yeah.
right.
And the reason, I mean, it's always hard how, because one year, first time we did this, it was in January, and that was way too late. So that's why we moved it earlier in the process. In the summer, they're just kind of still ramping up for start of school year. That's where their minds are. And really, now we've started to turn their attention to thinking about FY27. So yeah, that's why we kind of time it for November, to give the principals enough time to pull their proposals together. It's so hard. They also need to see how the school year, this year, is developing before they can come up with their plans for next year. Even November, in some ways, is early for that.
Sure. So your question is, are there enough finance subcommittee meetings?
Yeah.
Jack?
I'm wondering if we should probably I think we should put one in either November or December. Either
Yeah.
sometime in early November or early December, because I just think we should anticipate needing that, and then at least if we put it in, we have it.
Yeah.
And then if we don't need it, that's great. But October to December, a lot.
It's a long time.
Actually,
Yeah.
to January, a lot can happen, and especially we know we have a lot of moving parts
Yeah.
this year, and we may have, harder things to have to figure out, so just bookmark it in there, find out what works, and
Yeah, thank you very much. And then is there, like I say, this is quite similar to what we've done in the past. Any other changes anyone would like to see, or any particular formats or questions you want us to raise as we go through this process?
we'll probably also need 4 meetings in February and 4 in March.
Yeah, let's say that. No, going to be seamless. One other change I have made, so I'm going to, so we'll carry on in this. I did want to just going to give you a little bit of context of, just starting to give you a sense of where we are on a number of key indicators. So one other change I have made this year is I'm trying to kind of, as we go, develop a kind of budget book, which will be a document that has all the information around our budget in it. And so that will be, so my plan is, as for each meeting when I come to you, I'll include a narrative. We'll add that to the book. So by the time we get to sort of the public hearing, we'll have a full summary of what's going on in the budget, which will be helpful to share with the public. But also the idea is that's in a reference book, a reference for us with all the data we'll need, and then something we can build on in future years. So the first iteration of that I included in your pack attached to this. So it just has a bit more of the narrative around some of the figures that I'm going to go through now. So if you feel like there's not enough information in the slides, there's more, don't worry. Just before I do that, so this is what we have planned for the town meetings, as I think, Jackie, you're alluding to. There will be a lot more meetings, but I just wonder if you think we should be doing anything to communicate with the towns earlier than this. We do have a meeting with the town administrators planned for October 9th, just to kind of outline what the plan is with them and start to hear from them about the financial situation of the towns. Then, as I said, we'll present the capital plan, but then really nothing more happens formally until January 15th. And I kind of hold them off because we don't have the formal budget until that point. I don't want to give them a draft that's not been approved by you. But it is just, it's kind of late in the process. I wondered if anybody had any thoughts about if we should be giving them information sooner.
Is October 9th, you're saying, is that Harwich and Chatham?
Yes.
Is there separate meetings that day, or?
We're meeting with them together.
Oh, okay.
So we have these, we've
Right, in the
historically.
past, you've, like,
Yeah.
this is and then the town goes, and this is what we have, and then you're like,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
now we
yeah.
know where we're going.
Yeah, and it's a very working meeting.
Right,
we'll talk
okay,
about-
so everyone, okay, so it's not,
Yeah,
I think you may want to plug another town one in
Yeah.
November.
so, and then we'll arrange, so after that meeting on October 9th, we'll arrange some other meetings with administrators.
Oh, you have, okay.
Yeah, well, we will, with them.
I
Trying to get on the
heard
calendar.
Harwich say last year, we want more communication.
Yeah.
And I heard us say we
We will.
communicate a lot,
Yeah.
but
But
if
do you
it's
think we
down
should
here,
send-
it's even easier for us to go, we did this, we
Yeah.
did this, we did this.
Do you think we should give anything formal to the select boards before January 15th?
watched the select board meeting on Monday night.
Yeah.
I know that Dr. Carpenter and our chair sat in front of them and just kind of discussed the process. And it seemed, and you might be able to speak on this more, but it seemed like they were going to have a lot more open communication line with us about what they're looking for in the budget this year,
Yeah.
instead of coming in March asking for cuts.
That was what was articulated.
Yeah,
And, my hope for them is that, that they get that finance director in place, and that, that hopefully with the town manager and finance director can go get to I think in an ideal world, if both towns were sort of articulating in the October timeframe and, October, November, December, this is where we think the wherewithal is, so that the school district isn't heading along one way. It's like thinking, okay, we can support, or, the towns can support, let's say, 3%, and then you have a February surprise where, where you're told, we can only do 2. So I think the sooner that you can have those, those conversations, and I think that's what they were trying to say, hey, we have a commitment to go get you information on what the wherewithal is sooner. Chatham historically, has their budget forum, each October, right?
Yeah.
And, and one will be coming up soon with Chatham. It's already on our calendars, but, and the town manager and financial director will say, share, this is where we, think the schools will be or could be, and I think, Chatham's financial position, as we know, has, generally has been more favorable than Harwich's, and are able to have a placeholder there, that I afterwards go, well, okay, that 8% placeholder is not, isn't sort of realistic, on the other, for the other partner. Not saying that it's 8%, but, but that's, I think that's where having these monthly meetings to kind of hone in on what is, what can both partners, sustain.
so I wonder maybe as we go through this process, at future presentations of the budget, we might want to think about, do we share some of that information with the towns, and rather than just waiting until January, even if it was just to give them a sense of, here's the priorities we're dealing with, not giving them necessarily percentage increases, but just starting to familiarize them with the issues that we're dealing with in the budget.
Well, it certainly would show that we're being very proactive and
Yeah.
we're reaching out as much as we can.
Yeah.
So, Jack?
I know that the Harwich Select Board meeting that I watched, Jeff Handler was very vocal about being the liaison for the Select Board
Yeah.
for Harwich for us, so maybe
Yeah.
he would be a great
Sounding
direct,
board. I
when
think that's a
we
great
have
idea.
any conversation regarding the budget or something to give, we give
Yeah.
it directly to Jeff, and then he can determine if it's something that, ask the chair if it can go on their agenda or to discuss with the board.
I would also suggest on that, too, is that on some of the key meetings that we have here, that we invite the liaisons.
Yeah.
If it's Jeff and
Yeah.
Jeff,
Yeah.
to be here, because if they're both here, they're going to be part of the discussion, and it'll be much more inclusive than even sending them something.
I think that's a good idea. All right, brilliant. All right, fantastic. Thank you very much. All right, that's good. All right, so now I'm going to go into just giving a little context to the budget as we're preparing it now. So, as you remember, we finished the FY26 budget with a increase of 5.87% in the budget from the previous year. So, there was a lot going on in that budget. That was lower than we'd originally requested, although that's this is a significant increase, and it's the highest we'd seen since way back in FY15. And one thing, what happened in FY15 was we started paying debt payments on the high school, so there was a big increase there. That was something we took on we hadn't been paying before. That decrease, interestingly, was due to savings from regionalisation and larger reliance on school choice is what brought that down, and then it jumped up, and then since then it's been relatively stable, and I mean, this is a little higher, it's not really an outlier, it's still within the kind of similar range to previous years. But, you know, and I think it shows the support of the towns, although maybe not quite as high as we hoped, given all the challenges the district is facing in terms of, you know, staffing, the impact of inflation, the, you know, student needs. We definitely are, you know, there's a lot more pressure on the budget. And in order to get to that 5.8, sorry, I'll just jump ahead actually. In order to get to that 5.87%, we did remove a number of items from the budget. And that's something we're starting to talk about now with the principals, is when we're starting to put together this year's budget, we're starting with these items, you know, which of these, you know, I mean, most of them, I think we still need to try and work out a way to fund many of these items. As I say, there's a bit more information in that narrative in your packets. And then just to jump back, this slide, which, I mean, I love the colours on this slide, but it's getting a little small. So I like being able to see, you know, the entire history of it, but it's a little small for a slide. But this shows how we funded those budgets. And this, the grey block here, that's the Harwich assessment. The light blue block is the Chatham assessment. The dark blue block is the state funding. And the yellow is excess and deficiency. So we saw significant increases to both Harwich and Chatham assessments. Chatham assessment did go up a little higher than Harwich's assessment, and that was due to a number of reasons, including the budget at Chatham Elementary School went up a little bit higher. We also saw their state assessments, the minimum local contribution for the town of Harwich which the town of Chatham was a little higher, and foundation enrolment shifted slightly towards Chatham. So those three things combined to increase the Chatham assessment ahead of the Harwich assessment. Although, of course, as an absolute number, the Harwich assessment increase is still higher. And we did see a decent increase in state funding this year, and we have increased for this year excess and deficiency from $800,000, which is what it's been for the last few years, to $1 million. And, you know, as we always say, we can't do that forever because we will run out of money eventually if we keep drawing on that more than we're putting into it. So that was kind of how we ended the year, or how we ended the budget process. So this year, we do have, you know, I start to put together some provisional district enrollment and foundation enrollment figures. So these are just provisional, but they do suggest we might see a bit of a shift towards Harwich with some of our foundation enrollment and district enrollment numbers. There's always some changes, especially, I mean, the district enrollment is not set. That's still, and these are 3-year averages, but these are not final yet. But as they stand, it does suggest a slight shift towards Harwich, which, you know, will bring its own challenges.
Do you mind just repeating that? So the foundational enrollment number, that's the 3-year average for that year, and
yes.
the district enrollment is just whatever the enrollment is for that
district enrollment is
year.
also a 3-year average. The difference is the district enrollment includes this year, and foundation enrollment's actually last year. There still can be some changes to it, but, you know, as the numbers finalised. But it's a year, so they actually, you know, the foundation enrollment doesn't include this year's enrollment, which is why I'm a little more confident about that number, because really it's historic data. There shouldn't be many changes to it. But the district enrollment does include this year, and so that, you know, we don't know that until we just finalised. It's October 1st numbers, so that's been finalised as we speak.
All right, thank you for explaining that.
So the idea of having a 3-year average is it's supposed to kind of ameliorate any big changes from year to year, so you kind of smooth out over 3 years, so it kind of softens the impact of a single year's change. And one more thing I'll just say quickly is the assessment is so complicated now because of how the elementary schools are charged are assessed to each town. And so the foundation enrollment is still critical, but it's split up. We use like the foundation enrollment in grades pre-K to 5, and then 6 through, or pre-K to 7, and then 8 through 12. So we split up the foundation enrollment. So it does kind of change the impact, but really that's still a core number. And when the state does its numbers, the state uses this year's foundation enrollment, so we don't know what that is yet. We won't really know that until January. So enrollment, so this is actually just, I didn't even put in FY26's data yet because we're still finalising it. This is just up into FY25. So we saw enrollment kind of, we saw a big reduction, decline back in FY21. Since then, it's just going down ever so slightly, but definitely a downward trend. And what we know is the downward trend has been at the lower grades rather than the high school's actually been increasing for the last few years, and it has reached its kind of highest. Last year was its highest, and we're going to start to see it come down over the next few years. And we know it's going to, unless something really unsurprising happens, but we know it's going to go down because we see the size of the grades coming up behind us. So as grades 11 and 12 are leaving, the ones coming in at 7 or 8 are smaller than the ones going out. So unless something really surprising happens, high school enrollment's definitely going down. And similarly, the size of classes in the elementary grades are lower than at middle school, so we expect the middle school to go down as well. And that's a pattern you see all over the Cape right now. Enrollment in all districts, most districts, is going down, which has a myriad of impacts for our budget and financial decisions in multiple places. So and then kind of reading on from that, some key factors that are likely to influence the budget and assessments, things we'll be talking about, we'll be coming back to a lot over the next few months. Health insurance, there's a lot going on with health insurance at the moment, so there is a possibility, we always, every year we kind of come in and we pick a number, often 10%, so that's what we're going to assume for the increase in health insurance into next year, and then we get the actual number around the end of January, early February, and fingers crossed that it's going to be lower than 10%. I'm a little nervous about health insurance. We're doing a lot of work with the Cape Cod Municipal Health Group to try and look at how we pay, purchase and pay for mostly pharmaceuticals. Actually, is where we're seeing a big increase in costs. So we're looking at different options we have around the purchase of pharmaceutical drugs and how we might be able to bring down some of those costs. So that might be a way to offset increases, but definitely we're hearing from our health insurance companies that the rates for FY27, we might see a higher increase than we have in recent years. That's health insurance. Capital needs, so I think it's actually, the big area is the debt, the projects that involve debt. So that's like the siding, which is already, actually not started, but we're actually out to bid right now for that project. And then, as we now start, we'll see that debt come on, and that'll be part of our budget costs, our district's budget costs. We're also talking about doing the roof at the middle school, and then we will have decisions to make over the next few weeks and months about other debt projects and whether or not we want to schedule them or postpone them and how we want to tackle that. And from my perspective, that's definitely going to be a big ticket item for us to wrestle with over the next few weeks and months even. Student needs, we've talked about this, and this will be something that will come through a lot when you hear from the principals that we continue to have a lot of needs amongst our students, ensuring that we're meeting their academic, social, and emotional needs, and that drives, so although we might see a fall in enrollment, we are seeing an increase in need for specialised services and support for students. Chapter 70 funding, so that's the state. As I said, we'll know that in January. Utilities, so our electricity costs are a bit of a headache recently, and superintendent was alerting me to a news story where National Grid has asked for an increase in their gas supply costs, so we can see that utilities may continue to be a pressure point for the district. And then the final one is school choice. That's one thing I'm kind of watching now. We have seen, along with the decline of all enrollment, we've seen a fall in the number of school choice students coming into the district, which is not necessarily a problem, but it just means we have to adjust, because if there's fewer school choice students, that means less school choice tuition, and that is a revenue source that we've used to offset salary costs in recent years. And so if that number changes substantially, then we'll need to look at how we fund those positions or not. And then we did actually see a slight increase in the number of students going out with school choice last year. So that was we've had a long trend of a enrollment in school choice out going down. And we just saw last year, it could just be a blip, but that's just something I'm keeping at the back of my head, preparing for in case there's something else going on there. And then to that point, here's the kind of assumptions we've made, and there is a bit more detail on some of these in your pack, but right now I'm assuming a 10% increase in health insurance, the health insurance budget. So that's the $710,000 increase in our expenditure budget. I'm assuming that we'll see a reduction of 10 students in school choice coming in, which would be at $65,000 reduction in revenue, an increase of 11 going out. That's pretty pessimistic. I really hope it won't be like that, but just to be on the safe side. And we will get more information about this in the next. Right now, we're still just basing all these assumptions on 2025's numbers, but we'll still get a better idea of 2026 in the coming months. Charter school tuition has been relatively level recently, so I'm not expecting any different change there. As in the past, where we have turnover, I budget a Master's Step 7 for Unit A staff. That kind of gives me a middle of the, so if someone's going out near the top, somebody's retiring, then I assume we replace them with, the person coming in is a Master's Step 7, so we capture a bit of the savings. So that just helps, it doesn't always work out exactly like that. Sometimes it's less, sometimes it's more, but that was the average a couple of years ago, actually. That was the average step and lane of people, of new hires. So that was kind of real. Rather than assuming they're all going to come in like step 1, which is not the case, but they're also not just replaced by the same person as leaving. So that just gives us a sense of possible savings. Property insurance, I know I'm jumping ahead, but property insurance keeps going up. And it's gone up at around 10 to 15% in the last couple of years. And I'm so becoming more pessimistic about that. So I'm assuming a 15% increase, which is $123,000. And then, I just kind of put this one on so that, we're all aware of it and talking about it. But for now, we're assuming federal funding will continue at the same levels we've seen in recent years. Whether it will or not is a total guessing game at the moment, but without any more information, we're just assuming, because really, we'll really get a good idea in the next month or two when the federal budget for FY26 is approved. Then we'll have a good idea, or not for A26 is approved, we'll have a good idea of where things are actually going to come out. There's a lot of noise, but we don't know how much it's going to impact our grants yet. So for now, and these are assumptions. So these are right now, we'll update these as we go, and I'll let you know when I've changed them or when we're updating them or when we know what the answer is. So I'll keep you in the, I'll keep you in the loop. So, but what's interesting is you've got almost, $800,000 here, $900,000 straight off the bat. And that's before we add on anything else. So, there's a lot to go, but big numbers. All right. So that's it. That's everything I wanted to cover. Just brace you for what's coming ahead.
Most wonderful time of year.
Yeah.
Any questions or comments from Michael? Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sure. Okay. Let's turn to subcommittees. The policy subcommittee. Ryan, are you the chair?
I am.
Do you have any further updates other than the fingerprint policy, which we already discussed?
We planned our schedule upcoming, so hopefully we can get that posted at some point. And then we are just going to kind of continue on from what the previous subcommittee did and kind of go through our policies systematically, just so we can review them. There are a couple important ones that have some deadlines that are coming up shortly. So we'll get to those obviously first, but then other than that, we'll go through systematically so we can kind of review everything in a logical order.
Great. That sounds like a plan. And having been on the policy committee last year, I know how critical it is, and there are some ones that particularly by the end of the year that need to be done in order to be incorporated for the next calendar year. Okay. Superintendent Search Committee. We have presented that tonight in terms of what we're going to do, so we're going to meet Thursday night. I think we're meeting over here too, in the sharpness room.
Yeah.
So anyways, okay. And Superintendent Goals Committee. Jack?
That would be me. We met this week, and Dr. Carpenter presented us with the first draft of his goals for 2025, 2026, and we just kind of discussed what each goal was. He explained where they came from, where he's going with them, and then we kind of worked around some action items and timelines and such with them. So they are here in your packet, and does anyone have any questions on them? And I can let Scott, if you want to, you can talk about them, but they're pretty self-explanatory. I can just briefly run through the professional practice goal. 1 will be to take the DESE Sheltered English Immersion Endorsement course, and he is actually already started that. That started in September. It's not typically for a superintendent, ironically, but it's one of his goals. He feels it's important, and I don't know why superintendents aren't included in that, so I thought, we thought that was a nice proactive step, and to the benefit of the district as well. Professional practice goal number 2 is a continuation of last year's goal, and it will be carrying forward the goal of the Y Achievers program and taking what Scott had started as our, I forget what the name of the community, no, it wasn't the community.
Breaching barriers.
Excuse me?
Breaching barriers.
Excuse me, the breaching barriers, you're right. It's right in front of you. Breaking barriers. Breaking barriers, right? Yeah, and taking that and putting it together with the YMCA, and then hopefully having the YMCA Young Achievers program kind of take it from there, along with a liaison for Monomoy. So the next is the student learning goal, and again, that is a walkthrough that is a continuation from last year, based on feedback from the Monomoy admin team, and he will be working with his team to do follow-up on their evaluations, writing up support for each. And then student learning goal number 2 is kind of in line with the school committee goal of number 5 to explore universal pre-K for 4-year-olds in Harwich and Chatham. I think what I found interesting about this is actually where he started on his path, as he shared with us. I think it was during one of his interviews for this job, one of his goals was for universal preschool. So I think it's kind of nice to see that come full circle and see if he can make headway with that. And then the district improvement goal number 1, again, continuation of last year's goals. And this is, again, in line with our school committee goal number 2, supporting the diversity, equity, and inclusion audit for our district and the steps for that. And then, is this a repeat? Nope, district improvement number 2. That will just be supporting the transition of his job to the next superintendent for Monomoy. And we have a 3rd district improvement goal, which is the superintendent to work with the principals and admin team to operationalize the school committee goal number 3 of strengthening employee engagement based on the results of the staff survey. And that is it. It's a pretty hefty set of goals for the year, but
Very comprehensive, and it's great to be able to tie into the school committee goals, too. Any questions, comments? Nope, okay. All right, Dr. Carpenter.
In terms of just recognitions, and I'll dovetail, I'll kind of address a couple of the superintendent goals that, as I go through this. In terms of recognitions, I'd like to recognize and thank the work that Sherry Armstrong and Shavar Shakespeare put into helping amass our group of Y Achievers. So Shavar Shakespeare graduated, I believe, in 2019 from Monomoy. Shavar is a young man who immigrated here when he was very young. He went to college, and in February will be going to graduate school. But while we have Shavar in his hiatus between undergrad and graduate school, we've hired Shavar, and I've have him there with a mission of recruiting the kids like him who a Y Achievers program would benefit. And we had a bumper crop of of potential Y achievers show up for an informational meeting yesterday. We were focused on our younger students, our 8th, 9th, 10th grade students to sort of start into this program. We had 55 kids come to the informational meeting, take the applications, and hopefully we'll have as many of them get the information to their parents, and we'll be inviting their parents to a information session here in a couple of weeks to get the parents on board as well with the program. But really appreciate the work that Sherry and Shavar both put into getting that moving forward. In terms of the equity audit, we really have gotten everything we needed to do to have the audit happen. So we have had parent surveys. We've had well over 200 families have responded to the parent survey. We've had, I think, an equal number of staff respond to the staff survey. All of our students, with the exception of a handful whose families opted to not participate in the student survey, but all of our students 4th grade to 12th grade participated in the equity audit survey, and we had teams that were here this past Saturday from each building. We had parents and staff members from each one of our buildings spent Saturday morning here to go through the process of the equity audit from a building level. So again, thanks to all the parents who were part of that, including our very own Betty Gray. And all of that data, with Joy's support, has been transmitted to, or all the data from Saturday has been transmitted to MAAC for them to start compiling all the information with the survey results and get a report back to us. So it was a lot to happen in a short window of time, but we made it happen. And then last thing, we will have our annual school safety forum for parents on Monday night here in the library at 6:30 p.m. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have voted on all the action items this evening. We've got the presentation warrants. Ryan, those are all set over there?
Correct.
So do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? No, it's unanimous. What a surprise. We finished at 7:27, and good night, Chatham and Harwich.